get started. So those of you that are talking, have a seat. Go outside. Okay, guys, we have a seat, please. Thank you. Let's go. Okay, first of all, anybody have any quick questions that I can answer that seems to be bothering people? And I'll go through the questions. Yes, ma'am, very loudly.
Yes, Russia seems to have a problem with us, and we've got this problem in the Middle East and Iran and missile shooting and that kind of thing. Trump on the radio said that he'd like to work out a peace deal. On the other hand, Hillary Clinton will say...
Be a little bit louder.
Tell us about Russia in the Middle East and why it seems to be believed that...
This is a contrived situation. The Obama administration created ISIS so that they could create this moment. And this is all fact-based. The evidence is very, very clear about what the Obama administration, Hillary Rodham Clinton, did back in 2012. You're getting more and more emails out that are substantiating what I've said. The Liberty Tour 3, we brought out Scott Bennett, and Scott Bennett, who was a former psychological operator, and also the guy who was documenting the movement of money from Swiss bank accounts from the CIA and the United States Treasury into the Swiss bank accounts. And those bank accounts were then going to pay for arms from Qatar. Those arms from Qatar were making their way, Stinger missiles I might add, the new leaked email that came from WikiLeaks yesterday in regards to the Turi situation, that's a whole other thing, verifies that we were arming them with Stinger missiles. Stinger missiles that were being used on our Chinook helicopters in Afghanistan. And one of the problems with it, and this is a developing scandal as we speak because this email just came out this morning, is 1:20 in the morning is when it came out actually. They shot one of our Chinooks down with a Stinger missile that had been purchased by the United States government, and it's run by the State Department. Benghazi, that whole situation for running arms, and I've said this before, now it's totally verified by this email, was a State Department function. The whole operation, State Department and not CIA. There's two separate private armies out there, one run by the CIA and one run from the State Department. I was invited to the breakfast in Dallas, Texas, that was used as a benefit for these so-called shadow warriors. 35,000 shadow warriors, special operators and contractors have been injured and wounded in the last 10 years. 3,500 have died. The special operators portrayed in Benghazi, the 13 hours, they were with the CIA. And that's why there was such that division. You saw it in the movie. They were not going to be brought in to cover the ambassador. That wasn't their job. And so Station Bob, at Benghazi was saying, don't go down there. The whole thing, that whole armaments thing, was a Hillary Rodham Clinton operation. And we were buying Stinger missiles made by us, selling it to the Qataris. They were then transiting those arms into Benghazi. And part of the problem with that was one of those Stingers in this whole transition was used in Afghanistan, shot a Chinook helicopter, did not blow up. Helicopter lands. They go, it's an American-made Stinger missile. Little issue there, right? So they took the numbers, they tracked it down. State Department purchased by Hillary Rodham Clinton. They wanted to gather up the Stinger missiles that were in Benghazi. That's why the Benghazi attack occurred. Get it? They didn't want those Stinger missiles with those serial numbers getting back to tell everybody that it was a Hillary Rodham Clinton and Barack Obama operation. And you know who knew the most about that? Chris Stevens. He was murdered. Plain and simple. That whole operation was an Al-Qaeda operation we funded. We funded. You and I funded with our tax dollars. We funded ISIS. This whole situation in Syria is contrived by this government to create the crisis throughout the Middle East so that we have this huge immigration swell into Europe to destroy Western civilization. Get it? We are a terrorist nation. So now you ask Putin, what does he think of that? He's not a happy camper. And Putin saw the video that we produced at Liberty 2 or 3 with Scott Bennett in July, and in the end of August, he was ordering up his military to go to Syria to take out ISIS. Now, who's on the right side here? Putin. And it's laughable what's going on in the media to me. If I couldn't stop crying and seeing what I'm seeing. Because they're pitting Putin against us, and we are us. We are the problem. And no one's holding these guys accountable. Except for you guys, because you're here, by the way. Stand-up Americans who they hate. You all know you're terrorists, right? Yeah. This government has labeled you as domestic terrorists. Every one of you in this room. So therefore you're subject to various laws. You know, like being assassinated like Lavoy Finicum. Get it? Yep. That's why he was assassinated. It took him 2 days to set up the sniper location where they assassinated him. Now, that's called premeditated murder by the FBI. Now we all know why Comey's doing what Comey's doing, right? Because he's all on board with this. So you have Fox News, and you have all these other news agencies out there, and what are they doing? Putin bad, USA good, Putin bad. Does Putin like ISIS? No. Oh, and ISIS is evil, and we're fighting ISIS. You know, the record doesn't indicate that. We are the problem. And so are all of our federal and state representatives. They're the problem. Most everybody, and this is part of the problem with some of the Republicans, they're knee-deep in the weapons shipments themselves and the money coming from it. Why do you think they haven't done anything? Why do you think they're so compromised and won't do anything? Am I spelling it out kind of clear for you? Okay, so, am I a Putin fan? Yeah, I am. I was like everybody else because I didn't realize it either, but I was, you know, after a while you start putting 2 and 2 together. Let's see, Putin wants to stop Islam from taking over Russia. By the way, which is something that's been going on for how many years? Several hundred years. Okay, that's pretty good. We are buying weapons and arming ISIS. That's bad, right? Okay, so what side would I be on? Well, I support Putin. Yeah, Thomas?
Now, I can't remember what country it's coming out of, but isn't there a big caravan of oil leaving and heading into Turkey that is funding?
Right. What happened, and this is verified by Chris Peranto. Chris and I talked, and he's been on the show a couple times. He's one of the guys in the movie that you see in 13 Hours. This is also verified in the meetings that I had when I went back to Dallas with people. And that we actually, you probably remember this, when all of a sudden we had all these arms, a massive number of arms about 2 years ago that were in Iraq, billions of dollars, almost $1 trillion worth of arms. And the Iraqis just left it, and who came in and picked it up? ISIS. Remember that? And then they started their march around and gathering up, you know, going to Palmyra and all this other stuff. Those were our arms, our weapons. And by the way, the uniform, this is an offense to me because my dad was a Marine and my father-in-law was a very much decorated Marine hero. They're wearing Marine Corps uniforms. How many saw that? Notice that. Marine Corps uniforms. That's called a clue that we're probably helping them out, right? Visuals like that. So what it was, Tom, is they went in and invaded they invaded Iraq, and they took over the oil fields, ISIS did, and they were pumping out the oil, and they were driving in large caravans to Turkey, where Erdogan, who's trying to be the Grand Caliph of all this, Erdogan, who, by the way, the president calls just about daily. This has been going on for years. He was bringing in the oil into Turkey, and his son, Erdogan's son, was acting as the broker and becoming a billionaire overnight from the oil coming out of Iraq. And of course, all that money was going right back into ISIS. Now, they don't occupy much land, ISIS, but they're in 80 different nations doing military-style operations right now, ISIS. Their growth has exploded globally. That's what we face. Terrorism is all over the world. It's not being reported. If you go to my website, I put up a thing, I don't know, this morning, I don't know what time, and it lists for the last 30 days all the ISIS attacks worldwide. Brutal attacks. 25 to 150, 200 people being killed at one time. In about 70 different nations. That's what ISIS is. And you won't see it on the mainstream media. They refuse to put that up. So let's talk about the media. How many of you remember when James O'Keefe came here and spoke to us? Remember that? Skinny Irish dude, right? I had a great sit-down meeting with him. We talked on the phone. First time I interviewed him was during Hurricane Sandy. He was in one of the big skyscrapers in Manhattan, and it was completely dark. He kind of didn't know how to get out of the building, and his cell phone was dying. That was the interview I had with him. It was hysterical. Of course, he was freezing and raining and all that stuff. But anyway, O'Keefe just came out today with a series 1 of his undercover work exposing the Clinton machine. And it is unbelievable. This is the October surprise.
Which I emailed to everybody today.
Correct. Okay, I want to say something right now. This is an intelligence thing. I work with intelligence people. You probably figured that one out. I work with a lot of citizen journalists who contribute. One of the things we're really trying to push and happen is citizen journalists. So I have hundreds of people who will send me, can you stop the dang thing? I mean, come on, it's just not to run the presentation, you're embarrassing. I love doing that. Because you don't happen to be over there at the beginning of this. Anyway, we have hundreds of citizen journalists who will email me, or call me or whatever, and we have code names. Some people I don't even know their names, and we don't want to talk about names. But the information I get is just absolutely spot on, and some of the sources. Okay, one of my sources worked for a very big agency, and they're always right, and we have a pretty good relationship. But one of the warnings I want to put out, because Carla said that she took, and what did you do? You emailed the link, right?
Yes.
Okay, she lives not in this part of the country, but she gave me a warning because she was trying to send me stuff to my email address, and it was either being kicked back or I never even got it. So we did a search this morning, another hour gone by, and we started playing around with the internet. We figured out something that every time she tried to send me something that had a link with it, like with YouTube, the YouTube code will come up blue, and you can press on that and the link will come up, right? If you have a link or you're linking directly to a site, it was not coming through. It was being blocked. But if you took out the link and left the language there, where you could copy it and then paste it up in the URL, you could get it. So they called their former agency, because they were retired. This is a big agency in the government, And the agency there told her that they are blocking emails that they see fit that might have information relevant to us. Right now. Right now.
What agency is
I didn't say. Did I say the agency? Now, the guy who's got top secret clearance behind me expects me to be able to look that out. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff that's going on. But I want to get back to James O'Keefe. He was on Mark Levin this afternoon. And I tried to call him, by the way, because I wanted to kind of, come on my show again. You have to see this. We have it up on our web. It's up on the website, up on the right-hand side where it says today's show. And you can pick up the link and listen to it and watch it. It's unbelievable. He has caught them all on videotape committing various and numerous felonies. It's indisputable what's been going on. The attack on Trump was an attack on Trump pre-planned back in May. We have the emails and documents for that now. I said it was a pre-planned thing, and it was. They don't do these things just in a vacuum. It was completely a pre-planned event. Did you notice that Trump was ready for that? And he is. Because we know what the Clinton playbook is, right? We do. By the way, there's a possibility that 2 more Clinton informants are dead today. We're looking into that. 2 more Clintons died. Well, because they're all in on the game. Good question. The graft, corruption, the influence, especially the government, the federal level, is almost complete. And that's what we're facing. And I'll give you an example of that right now with James O'Keefe. He's on Mark Levin's show. This is blockbuster information. I'm not minimizing it. And I know what he's going to have tomorrow when he's going to put another one out. Keep up with it. Try and keep up with it. But what he did is he delivered all this to all the news media out there. And all of them rejected except Fox News. And he's going, oh, great, Fox News. And just before being interviewed by Levin, Fox News said, no and hell no. We're not going to put you on the air. We're not going to broadcast it, nothing. So those of you that thought Fox News might be working for the other side, you're right.
Confirmed.
They are. They're all in bed together. And if you've watched or listened to Fox News lately, they are turning viciously against Trump. Viciously against Trump. Fox Business, not so much. Fox and Friends in the Morning, not so much. And there's a big wedge going on there in Fox, and you can see it. But a lot of these guys are turning viciously against Trump. And they're doing that because the one world order people have said we are going to carry on and go forward. So O'Keefe, I think, has one of the big surprises that's going on. And this is what O'Keefe said. I was just stunned. But O'Keefe said, we can no longer at all trust or believe anything that the mainstream media is telling us. And so Levin said, well, what do we do? And he said, well, the only thing we can do is have citizen journalists and people, the American people, rise up and use their First Amendment right and use the internet and get this word out. Have you heard that before? Yeah. Well, I wanted to tell James, I do want to tell James, buddy, we got your back. There's more people pushing information now out, one-on-one, about what's going on. It's reached critical mass. They cannot stop it. But they're going to get desperate, and they're going to do anything they can to stop it, including trying to throw the election. Now let's talk about the polls. How many of you are really worried about the polling numbers that you're seeing? Raise your hand. Oh my God, it's just going. He's 11 points down from Hillary Clinton. Oh.
It's all a lie.
Okay. Let me tell you something. There's only 2 polls I follow. One's the LA Times USC poll, and the other one is the Rasmussen poll. They're the only. How many have taken a statistics class or a calculus class in their life? You kind of get what I'm going here. my calculus teacher, who was my statistics teacher too, he always said you have to have good data. You know, whatever you put in your calculations, it has to be good data. If you use bad data in your calculations, you're going to get a bad result. If you use good stuff, you're going to get good results. Duh. Well, for some reason last week, I kept perseverating thinking about this guy. Thinking, what? And listen, by the way, it's the calculus was the last class I took to get my master's degree. I was so intimidated, it took me 6 months to actually sign up for the class. It was the last class. I could have gotten the master's 6 months before. I got an A. I thought I was going to get an F and all that. But anyway, you know, I'm thinking about him talking about that. You got to have good data. You got to have good data, and that's just the way it is. And so I started thinking a little bit more about the data that these guys are taking in. And you can do this. You can figure it out to find out whether or not they're being truthful. Now, I've always known these data or these polling places, most of them are not legit. They're all being paid off by George Soros and that sort of thing, so it's definitely dirty data. It's how they mine and use the data to look very truthful to the general public. That's the key thing. And this is how they do it. So, some of you will remember my quite liberal brother being here, who, by the way, says hi and loves all of you guys. Tom, yeah. Tom. My brother is so liberal, but he loves you guys. He says, I love the free exchange of ideas and politics. He says, I don't get that over there in Arizona. I said, well, you'll never get it liberally anywhere. He doesn't quite connect that thought yet. But my brother, I said to him, you know, when we were having conversations at the house, I said to him, Tom, how do you get your news? Oh, I get my news from ABC, CBS, and NBC. And I said, no Fox News? No Fox News. I don't watch Fox News. I said, why not? He says, I don't have cable TV for that. Because they're broadcasting. So, oh, okay. Have you ever wanted to watch Fox News? No, I can't stand Fox News. I said, but have you ever watched it? No. It's a liberal mind. I said, Tom, I'm just playing little liberal mind tricks with you. And so I said, you need to broaden your horizons. So when he was here, I spent hours and hours and hours with him broadening his horizon. And I don't think he's going to vote for, I shouldn't say that. I don't know who he's going to vote for. I'm on TV. I wouldn't be surprised if he went in the polling booth and voted for Trump. Just my opinion. Now that I've said that, he sees that, he's going to make sure his wife does not hear what I said. Because she's more liberal than liberal. Anyway, so I started playing around with that, and I keep that thought in mind. Well, that's all he does. And I've known about this. There's a whole group of people. That's a demographic. He's 70 years old, and that's all he's known is those 3 alphabet channels. So he's stuck on 7, stuck on 3. So then, on Friday, I was listening to Neil Cavuto, who, by the way, is all anti-Trump and always has been, by the way, just to let you know. And he had somebody there, a union person, that was from Nevada. And it was kind of interesting because she started talking about, or he brought up the poll numbers about Trump, and Trump is, you know, being clobbered by in Nevada. And the girl said, wait, and now she's a supporter of Gary Johnson. She's a libertarian. And she said, well, wait, there's a problem with how these companies and these polling places are getting their data. And Neil Cavuto was kind of like, I'm going to shut her up. And he was trying to shut her up on, you know, and she wasn't going to have it. She goes, all they're doing is they're calling people on landlines, and they're not calling anybody with cell phones. So I heard that and said, bingo. And you're probably thinking, what is the demographic? Who watches those 3 channels and who only has landlines? People our age, a lot of us. But what about poor people? That's all they've got is a landline. Now I want to tell you, if you think about it, these programs where they've been trying to give out free cell phones, that fits another demographic, and they know how to control that. So now let's put it into this. Friday afternoon, a big graphic came out from Fox News, and said that of the 3 NBC, CBS, and ABC, 28 minutes were devoted to Donald Trump's problems with talking to women. 90 seconds was devoted to WikiLeaks. You see how they're skewing that data? And the other trick they're throwing in with this, and this is very well documented, is if you have 100 people, you would think that you're going to ask a right or left question, you're going to get 50 on the right and 50 on the left. They don't do that. They're getting 80 Democrats versus 20 Republicans to respond to the polls. That's skewing all the data. And that's why you're seeing so many questions, and it's not fitting. Because here's the deal, and here's the end game. And one of my security people told me this the best. Paul, they have to keep it close. It's not even close. Trump's killing them. It's not even close, but they have to keep it close. They have to keep that perception in the public that it is close, because when they come time to vote on the 8th, they can just press the George Soros button, and all those vote counting machines will switch from Republican to Democrat, and Hillary will be elected if the polls are kept close. They do not want to risk a rebellion if the polls are skewing so far and they have to give it up to Donald Trump. Then they'll deal with that later. They want Hillary in now. They're pushing too hard. They've overplayed their hand. Now that I've told you that little secret, tell other people. But that's what they're doing. So don't get stressed out by the polls or things that you're hearing, because this is a deliberate attempt by the mainstream media, all media outlets, to destroy the electoral system in this country, because that's what the one world order people want. That's why they're trying to destroy this country. And we break up our Constitution. Tom?
So the voting machines are rigged, is what you're saying?
The voting machines are very much rigged. Vote in person and vote in large numbers. And I say in person, that's the best way to do it. I've had Katie Grimes on, Megan Barth, they were the ones who wrote the story about California now. Bernie Sanders just brutalized Hillary Clinton here. But none of those those ballots that were cast by these guys, the provisional ballots that were handed over to these young Democrats who did register, but when they got to the voting place, they said, "Oh, you didn't register Democrat, but here's a provisional ballot. We don't have a ballot for you, but here's a provisional. Go ahead and vote." Well, they went ahead and voted, but they never counted the provisions, about 7 million here in California. And Bernie Sanders, some of the counties went back and started counting, and they realized it wasn't Hillary who won. Bernie Sanders won. That's what we're dealing with. The best way we can do it right now is to go out in person and vote in person at the polling site. Not very many absentee ballots were counted in California in June. They're not counting absentee ballots. Yes, ma'am. I'm not a ballot person kind of guy, and you're here in Sutter County, right? Anybody have that answer for her that we can give her? Or you have to call a county down there. I just didn't do that. Okay, you can trade it in.
You surrender your ballot. You surrender your ballot.
Do you mean the county clerk? Yes, you can. When you vote, get a receipt, get your receipt. Then what we're trying to do is get everybody to go down to the county clerk, either within the next day, after 2 or 3 days, or the next week, and show that to them, get it in their face, and make them show you that they counted that ballot. Remember, and listen, you're going to get resistance. Oh, I don't want to do this. This is too much work. Hello, honey, girlfriend, you work for me. You are my servant.
Donna Johnson is very, very good.
I know, but there's other counties, at this county side, I believe what Carl's saying, there's other counties where they're just bitching like crazy. I get the calls and I go, don't you just love the way the Constitution works? I love it. You might not, but I'm paying your salary. Hello. They want to try and button this up, and they're trying to, up in Redding, the Shasta County people, they got on the radio and stuff, and kind of interesting, kind of embarrassing. Okay, what's the other big thing out there? Quickly, I know we gotta go. Carla.
All the boxes hot that were found with already voted for Hillary Clinton. What state was that?
That was Ohio, and I heard that did not pan out. That was not. I'm 50-50 on that story. I didn't publish it. I mean, I published it originally and I haven't followed up on it. But we can't verify for sure, or at least they're not verifying there in Ohio, that that's actually true. But there's some shenanigans going on. I know that. I know about Ohio and Pennsylvania voting. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I need to add you something. I don't know whether you know about it or whether this is true or false. Okay. But last week, sometime last week at about 3:25 in the morning, in San Diego, several F-16 fighter jets took off with their afterburners, and the sirens in San Diego were blaring. And some people said they heard major explosions out at sea. Now, whether or not something was out there they did, I don't know. But about the same time that happened, also in Canada, their airbase, something was going on there. And also over in the state of Washington. Now, like I said, I don't know whether this is true or not, but some people did take videos of these fighter jets taking off. And I'm sure they don't take it off at that hour of the morning. Just to find out if they're later.
You're kidding.
I'm just a little regular radio guy. So I'm not going to play president or anything, but I'm going to tell you that there are a lot of nuclear arms that are armed around the world by both the United States and Russia. And Putin is arming his country and also in and around Syria. They will shoot down American aircraft if provoked. And they will shoot them down because their system is much better at defense and shooting down ours than we are at defeating them. That's a fact, because we didn't upgrade the system to match what Russia was doing. That was an Obama call. So, but there are armed nuclear weapons in various parts of the world that could go off at any time. They went to DEFCON 3. That's a fact. The government hasn't said anything about it because the mainstream media is not communicating with you because they are completely controlled by the government. Well, you have to spread the word. And again, the word is working, by the way. I say this on my radio show every day, 3 times a day. And I know people go, stop saying that. If you want to stop totalitarianism, it comes down to one person to another. One-on-one communication. And they're going to take away all the things we have now to communicate with. You can just bet on it. As soon as people get adjusted to whatever, they're going to take away the internet. We already know they're starting to work on that. They're taking away radio. They've already done that for this election cycle. Rush Limbaugh is out of every major market in the United States. I don't know if you know that or not. He's out of every major market in the United States. He used to be on every 50,000 watt station in the nation. Now he's down to 1, and that's KFBK out here. Everything has been reduced to, or eliminated, or reduced to 10,000 watts. So they just turned down the volume. Right now, and I put a warning out a couple of weeks ago, that Google has changed the algorithms on all the websites that are considered to be alternative websites, like mine. So, us alternative media people, Google has deliberately tried to turn us down and turn us off. So Google's working hand in hand with the Obama administration, get it? It hasn't worked. We're still prevailing. We're getting the word out. Because it's spreading, this is what I'm seeing with the people I work with. More and more people are talking and standing up and spreading the word. That's what's happening. And more people are getting what's happening. That this government is out of control. This government will destroy this country unless we start stepping up against it. And it's about that time we do it. We have to do that. But be informed. Don't be misinformed. And watch out for disinformation. There's a lot of it out there right now. Yes, sir.
Is it true that Putin has told his safe people around the world to
return to Russia?
Yes.
Right.
It's true.
Right. I figure we have about a 2-week window. Because he understands something. If you watch Putin and watch some of his stuff that he has on RT and stuff like that, and listen to his interpretations, this guy's like us, I gotta tell you. he thinks like Tea Party guys. So no wonder you're a domestic terrorist. He's very conservative for the most part. He's a dictator. I'm not taking, I'm not addressing that, but when you listen to his logic about how to approach ISIS, it's like, well, wait a minute, this is how we should be doing it. And he's protecting his people. It's not like, armies of Muslims have for centuries marched in and out of Russia. I don't know, do you know that? He's deathly afraid of what happened in World War II. At a little place, little location right outside between Ukraine and Moscow called Kursk. You know what happened to Kursk? The Nazis were trying to invade Moscow, and the Russian soldiers went in and stopped them in about a 3-day battle, costing the Russians 1 million men. 1 million men. And that's it. That's in his mind. Now, why do you think he went into Ukraine and Crimea? I'll tell you why he went into Ukraine. Because we overthrew the Russian-supported government there in Ukraine. Remember this? 3 years ago? And we replaced it with the old-school Ukrainians that were more leaning towards Germans. And in fact, these are the Nazis of today that are running the Ukraine. They were brought in by John Brennan, who's a Muslim. I don't know if you know that. Our CIA director is a devout Muslim, in the Muslim Brotherhood, and Muslim Brotherhoods are the Nazis, right? I mean, that whole thing. So you see, Putin is not a happy camper about what's going on in Ukraine. He doesn't want to have a repeat of Kursk. And he did not shoot down that airliner. They did. In fact, it was the president who gave the go order, our president, on Flight 17. We have the evidence. Yeah. He brought them all down, killed them with an American aircraft. American missile that blew up over the cabin of the plane. Yeah. I don't have any more updates than what is printed. And there's some stuff I can't talk about, other than I can say that it was a coordinated effort between Israel. This happened on July 27th. We brought down a missile, or it was a nuclear weapon actually, that was coming in. It had been fired by the Chinese. It was a Korean design, and it was coming in on a orbit. It was launched on a ballistic missile, which is supposed to take things high up in the air. Well, the trajectory was for a very low Earth orbit, and right away that spawned the people in the military to go, why are they doing that? Because low Earth orbit means ultimately that thing's going to decay quickly, and then something's going to happen. And it's going to decay as the orbit's going around. The final orbit was taking it over the southwest. And what they found out was that it was a nuclear weapon on board. And this was one of the, a general, I think his name is Rossi, a major general who was with the Army Air Command Defense Systems, and he spotted it. This is not in the story, so I'm going to kind of give you some back. He spotted it, and it was communicated to the network that he had. By the way, these guys, I'm not going to say that. The network that he had, the Israelis picked it up, and so did the Vietnamese. And they destroyed it before it could blow up over the southwest. We would probably not be here today. That was July 27th. Rossi, Major General Rossi, 2 days after this, was found dead in his bathroom in his home. Yeah, no. I don't know who replaced him. No, but he was found dead. They had the funeral for him and everything. No, actually, the article that we printed and we published that came right out of the Army was, it was under investigation by the CSI people. That's what we're playing with. So, pardon me? I don't know, but I know that there were 4 trawlers that were the types of trawlers in the Navy where they have these hard hat guys that were in and around San Clemente Island. And at a certain point in time, this is not in the story, At a certain point in time, they just all picked up and left and all search stopped, so I think they did find something. I don't know. That's just information you can't get. So that Obama's planning for real here. This is how it's happening. But stay informed. We will prevail. We absolutely will. Now I'll tell you something that's going to blow your mind. You don't mind if I sit down and tell you this? Kind of got it? No. This is a bigger mind blower. This is a just fantastic thing. Red Smith, who we coordinate with all the time, Shasta Lantern, he's with the Jefferson movement. By the way, where's the supervisor who was here talking about Jefferson? We got to straighten out a few things about Jefferson.
Yeah.
A few things, but not right now. But anyway, this is really a neat story, and I don't have all the things. Okay, does anybody know the history of Donald Trump and his family? Who knows it? Who's out there saying yeah? Who knows it? So I'm sitting there Thursday afternoon. What's it? Oh, today's Monday. Duh. It's a blur. Thursday afternoon, and I got all kinds of stuff happening. And Red calls me on the red line, as I call it. And I answer the phone. He says, Paul. He says, do you know anything about the Trump history, the family history, and Donald Trump? I said, no clue. I have no clue. Brooklyn, New York, that's all I know. He says, no. He said, do you know where they came from?
England.
I said, no idea. Well, they came from southern Germany, around Munich.
Oh.
And they were part of royalty there. There's a royal family that they're tied to. They were known as the Drumpf family. And they were royalty, and they were part of the Teutonic Knight Order. They were staunch Catholics. And around 1550, they broke away and became Lutherans and became Protestants. Protestants against the Catholic Church and Islam.
Those are mine.
Well, they gave up all their wealth, and this is a story I just got today, and I'm not really clear on everything. I know I'm getting the hook back there, but you better listen to this, brother, because you're going over to Europe.
I hope I'm coming back.
Yeah.
That's my point. Anyway, so around 1610, the Drumpf family had had enough, and they decided to flee Europe, and they left all their wealth behind. And they went to two locations. They split up and went to two locations. They went to Scotland, and they came to America, the Drumpf family. In Scotland, they're known as the Drum family, D-R-U-M family. But in the United States, they became known as the Trump family. Drum roll, please. So they became known as the Trump family here. And this is about 1610 to 1630. Great-grandfather, 4 times back. And all the grandfathers, kind of interesting in the family, are named Johann Christ Trump. All the children were Johann Christ Trump. That was the name. And the great-great-great-grandfather was one of the original founding fathers, one of the original patriots who helped to select Benjamin Franklin to be on the Constitution Committee. That's pretty good news, actually. And, I said to Red, well, that explains why he bitch-slapped the Pope. Remember that? Remember that when the Pope criticized Donald Trump, and Donald Trump came right back and went, bam! Said, don't you talk like that. I had enough of my relatives burned in cages or beheaded because of the Catholic Church. That's what that means. I mean, that to me is just, we aren't done with the story. I was on the phone with him in the parking lot tonight, just getting more information, and I haven't put it all together, but it is fascinating, the history of the Trump family. They're here for a reason. This is who we are today. And I tell this to you guys because you are a knowledge base. You are the administrative knowledge, if you will, that they are trying to destroy, because they do not want anything talked about with the Constitution. They don't want you to know about the Constitution. That part right down there, constitutionally limited government, the word Constitution, they hate, they're scared of. And that was why we invited Jeanette Finicum here next week, because her husband died for the Constitution. And they murdered him because of the Constitution. They murdered him because they wanted to stop the so-called, quote, virus that was spreading about the Constitution in Harney, Grant, and the rest of Oregon. That's why they murdered him. That's how important it is that they stop the Constitution or the idea of the Constitution. It's where we're at. So that's why we invited her. I said, let's have a good time. Let's invite her, and it's part fundraiser for her. We're charging $10 for some people to come, and other people are free and all that stuff. We want people to fill the house and support her, and we want to send a message to Washington, D.C. because they will be here watching. And we're more than happy to show it to them because they will see that we are going to be unified behind the Constitution, which is something that they don't want to see, but they're seeing it all over the world right now. The people like James O'Keefe stepping up. His life is at risk today. They want him done. They're shutting him down. Not going to happen. He's got 24/7. Julian Assange. He's not dead. Rumor the last couple of days, Julian Assange was killed. Man, we tracked that one down this morning. No. He's got the tightest security going on. The Ecuadorian government, in reaction to the United States, did shut off his internet. But he got it back up. And now he released another 3,500 emails, and some of those I haven't read yet or haven't gotten the scoop yet, but I can't wait to get into it. Because the ones that we've been getting here in the last 24 to 48 hours are absolutely incredible. And the problem that we have is the FBI and Loretta Lynch and all that, but that's going to have to be rectified. We need to be lawful. And I'm telling you guys, that's the key thing for us is to be lawful and to follow the Constitution. And that's why with these supervisors, and we did ask some constitutional questions, they got to know the essence of the Constitution. They've got to know what that Constitution means. They've got to know and live by it and even sacrifice themselves politically or whatever for that. They take an oath, they have to follow it.
They won't.
Well, and okay, but Carla, if they won't, what are you going to do? We're going to get their butts out in a heartbeat. And that's my point. If they won't, we have that attitude, they won't, we just move on. Nothing to see here. That's exactly what the attitude they want from us. And we can no longer have that.
We can also do a recall.
Yeah, we can do a recall. I'm being told to shut up.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
You're being told cut off.
Well, don't do that. I'm going to think you're a Muslim or something and behead me. Thank you very much. Listen to the radio. You got about 20 minutes left. Trump stickers right here. Got a whole bag of them. Well, there you go.
Where'd Dorothy go?
Yeah, so
This is her stuff.